Hi, it's Dale here from Isabella Selena Design Studio. I am doing a little watercolour painting here of one of my little faces that I like to do. Here are some of the other ones that I've done. I don't ever know how these are going to turn out. They just completely have a life of their own. But I have watched so many people doing faces and mixed media art and all kinds of things on YouTube over the last maybe year or 18 months or so, and I feel as though I've learned so much from them, so much, and so it's time that I did a little bit of giving back by just plucking up a bit of courage and doing some of my own pictures. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. Anyway, I'm going to give it a go. So let's get started. Oh, I put all my brushes away over here so that they won't be in the way when I am doing this video. Now, when it comes to doing these little pictures, I start off with the face first of all, and then I like to just try and get some face colours. And this is my mixing space, is this white plate. Do you know, when I started painting, and I used to watch people painting, and I used to think they had all of the, you had to have all of this gear to do your paintings, but I now realise, just give her a bit of here so I don't get in his face. I've since realised that in actual fact, when people say just use what you've got, and I used to think, well, that means that they've got 50,000 different art supplies, that in actual fact, in some cases that's true, but other times it's not true. They are just using what they've got, but you don't have to have this special ceramic thing to mix your paints in that costs, some amazing amount of money. It really can just be some old plate. I think I'm going to give her a little flower there. I don't know what she's going to be. I don't know who she's going to be yet. She just will decide for herself what she's going to be. Maybe she's going to be a little bit kind of Spanishy, something like that maybe. Don't know. Get rid of these extra lines up here. They were just guidelines in the beginning. And get rid of these other lines here. Now the other thing that I'm going to tell you is that this is not watercolour paper. It is just ordinary old sketchbook paper. This is the sketchbook I'm using, which is just literally cartridge paper, I suppose you would call it. And it's true that watercolour paints don't really paint all that well on it, and they go all wrinkly, but they paint well enough for you to just have a bit of a go. And I think that was one of the things that was stopping me quite a lot. I would do all the drawings, but then I wouldn't paint them because I was afraid that, I don't know, that something terrible would happen if I wasn't putting them on watercolour paper. But anyway, it turns out you don't really have to. You can just do what you want, really, when you're doing art. Shall I give her some more little flowers around here? I think, yes. She doesn't seem to have quite enough flowers yet. And few more petals, do you think? I think a few more petals would go well there. I don't know how I'm going to quite paint these in the end, but we'll see. Let's do a little here. Right, so you saw me mix up some colours. I have a bit of a random way of mixing up skin colours. Yes, very random, but I do know that you're supposed to put a bit of bluey, darky, murky colours in there to get a bit of shadowing as well. And of course the thing is, when you're painting on cartridge paper, you don't really get a lot of nice flow, so it is a bit more tricky, I suppose, but you can still do it. Coming down the bridge of her nose, and probably the very first person I ever watched doing a face, even though I've done lots of faces. I've done faces for years, but not very well. Just kind of scribbling, I don't know, just as a doodle really. And I saw this guy who was doing a fashion face, and he showed how you did the just kind of the basic. He just was using marker pens, and he just did the really basic shapes of chiseling out the cheekbones, a couple of shades around the eyes and down the nose, and my gosh, I was absolutely astonished at how, I might move on to another brush, at how just the shading in the right places just seemed to make all the difference. I had no idea about shading then. I had no idea how to do a nose, and you might be looking and thinking I still don't, but anyway, I think I'm certainly better than I was. So while that's kind of seeping and I'm swishing around and doing something, I'm going to have a go with these flowers, which I always seem to do red flowers. I don't really know why, but I do. And I'll just do loose colouring, as they say in the watercolour world. Loose colours. I don't know if you can do loose colours when you've already drawn them in, but anyway, that's what I'm doing. The good thing about watercolours, I suppose, is you can kind of do these sort of little, get these little trickles of colour going in when you want them to, where you want them to go. They seem to do that very nicely. You can see that, can you see that? That's obviously my very favourite colour, because it's just completely right through to the bottom. It feels as if there should be another centre there somewhere, but I appear not to have done that. I wonder if I just put a wee bit of sort of shadow. One of the things that's really, I think I've learned in all kinds of painting, whether it's with acrylics or watercolours, is the importance of contrast. And the more you can get a little bit of darkness in somewhere, the better. I know they don't really look too much like flowers at the moment, but they will. I'm going to give this girl some green eyes. Quite partial to green eyes. See what I mean about it kind of bleeding a little bit, which is exactly what you want to happen. At this stage of the painting, you always look at it and think, oh my god, that looks so terrible, it's never going to turn into anything of any value, but surprisingly they almost always do. I might put some little of my favourite red dots in there just to give it a bit of texture. Now, it gets to the point where you have to worry about your next lot of colours. Are they going to mix in with the ones that you've already put down? Because you don't really want that to happen. Unlike with acrylics where you can just wipe it off, with watercolours you actually can't do that. And it's always a bit of a dodgy game trying to do this. Oh, that looks as if it should have been red, that little bit there. I'll just give that a wee bit of redness. I think that's supposed to be a petal. It's quite hard to paint and talk at the same time. Start to realise you've missed bits, like her dress over here. Which needs a few red dots in it. Or, not really dots, because they're sort of blurred everywhere. So, what happens now is I like to leave that to dry, and then I will come back and have another re-look at it and decide what I'm actually going to do with it. So I do my pencil drawing first of all. I kind of splosh around some colours, and then I leave it and come back and see how is it looking now. So I'm going to switch off now and come back once it's dry. At this point, here I am back again, and my watercolour is really dry now. And at this point, I kind of like to get my girl to look a little bit more like a girl, and then I will do some more colouring over her. But at this stage, I want to get some black lines in, and for that I use a 0.2 fine liner. I don't know if you can see that, but that's what that is. And I just start to do some drawing and give her a little bit of character from this point on. I like to give her a bit of kind of messy hair. Get that hair in first of all. Just the strands really. It just gives it a little bit of texture that I like. And you see that I've just left in all of the pencil lines. I don't worry too much about them. And I am going to put a little bit of detail into these flowers. And I've just realised I don't have my glasses on, which is never a good thing. Having said that, I was going to do the hair. I've now romped off and am doing the petals. Give them a bit of texture as well. I don't know what these little circles are. I think they're just, let's call them seeds. And you'll see that now that it's dried, it's the colours have sort of mushed together into, I don't know, just such lovely, soft colours. I love them. I love them. And as I say, this is just on normal sketchbook paper. Kind of sketchbooks that you don't pay very much for at all. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with these petals. Somewhere. Maybe they were just some extra ones coming out from something underneath there. And you'll see that I've kind of got a little area in there that looks as if it's got nothing in it. So I might just darken that in a little bit, but I'm going to go back to the hair. And to her little neck. Now the face, which always gives life. So the eyes first of all. And of course the pupils, I guess in some ways it's kind of pointless me leaving these little empty spaces in the pupils because it's not white anyway. I've already painted it over green, but not to worry. And I'm just going to give her some very light little eyebrows. I think she stopped being a Spanish girl now and is being something else. Maybe she's just being an English rose pretending to be a Spanish girl. I always have a lot of trouble getting the mouth straight. For some reason, my mouths always go down at an angle, and also to get this part of the mouth in some kind of a line up down the centre of the face. Oh, yes, you can see she's getting a little character now, isn't she? And so then now I look at it and I think, oh, it could do with a bit more shading. And shading seems to work very well when it's got quite a bit of purpley, browny kind of a feeling to it. So I'm just going to shade up around here. A little bit more around the nose. A little bit around the mouth, and a lot more around here to make her little face pop a bit more. And a whole lot more up here as well. Ah, yes. And so I'm just putting a whole lot of water on my brush now because I can see I've sort of made the my shading colour a little bit too dark for what I want. So now I have to just make sure that I'm just putting water. Otherwise I'm going to have a really dark thing going on here. I don't like I don't like bringing this nose shape too far down. I've never really had a lot of success if I try to bring it right down, so I won't. And you can see that the, well, I hope you can see that the face is starting to get a little bit more of a three-dimensional feel to it now. And again, I'm just going to leave that to, oh, I might give her a little bit of lipstick. That's always good, isn't it? And maybe, oops, wasn't quite intended, maybe a little bit of colour under the, give it a little bit of colour under the eyes and onto the cheeks. Yes, I see when you do something unexpected like that, you just kind of have to make the best of it and hope that it looks like some intentional shading, really. Okay, let's do a bit more of her hair. Let's get a bit more in here. Maybe a bit more life on these little guys now. I guess I feel that you don't really need to slavishly go into every single little shadowy area, but and perhaps if I was I don't know, doing some proper work, then I would, but sometimes I think it makes it look a little bit too, I don't know, too unreal if you worry too much about getting every single little shadow in. I think it's more that you just want to give a nod to the fact that there are shadows there. I don't really know about putting these little red bits in here, but that's what seems to be done, so I will do that. The other thing that I think I've kind of discovered is that you can put all kinds of that when you are doing shading, it doesn't have to be, you can put other sort of colours in to lighten and brighten. It doesn't always have to be the colours that you would expect. Sometimes you can put, sometimes I like to put a lot of yellow into the skin just to kind of give it some sunshiny life, and sometimes I like to shade with colours that might not be the right colours for shading, but are just a dark colour. It seems to work quite well. So I am going to leave her, and you'll see that the other good thing about watercolours is that you can just keep reactivating them. They're wonderful for that. So they can have been sitting in your palette plate for weeks, and then you can come back and have another go with them, and they're just still there, all ready to use. Oh, and what I might do is I might give these little spots some meaning. That probably makes it look worse. Does it? I don't know. Just pretend there was one there. Yeah, and we'll come back and finish her off a little bit later. And here we are back again to put on another layer onto our lovely Miss Lovely here. And at this point I probably choose a nice purpley colour in my coloured pencils, and I just use a bit of coloured pencil to just add yet another little layer. And I'm not really drawing lines as such. I'm just trying to put down the coloured pencil in a way that just puts down the colour without really making anything too much in the way of marks. That doesn't make sense, does it? That doesn't put down anything too much in the way of lines, really. Obviously it's going to be making marks. But it's really just trying to get it to make a shadow. I suppose this is the point at which, well, maybe several points back, where you start calling it mixed media and not watercolour anymore. Going to see if I can correct this little chin line a little bit better. Not quite happy with the way it was before. And Then we're going to do a little bit more work on these eyes. Eyes really just say it all, don't they? What I'm doing here is kind of the suggestion of the eyeball. And then I'm bringing that lid down just a tad, just a touch. And curving that around a little wee bit. And then I'm going to get a grey and kind of do the, actually I'm not going to use that one, I'm going to use a normal graphite pencil. This is an HB, which is just the regular one. And I'm just going to do some little greyish shading in these eyes. This isn't ideal because graphite gives a wee bit of a shine that doesn't quite fit with the watercolour. But sometimes it's just got the right amount of shade. Right amount of colour, I should say. And I'm going to put a bit more colour. Oops, not that colour. A little bit more. Oh, keep picking up the wrong one. Bit more colour on here. And I guess this is the thing about using pencils. If you wanted to put quite a bit of colour on over top of watercolour, it does give a slightly wrong texture to the whole thing, so you have to be a little bit careful. Probably would be better to just do a little bit of, darken up a little bit of red and put that in there rather than persevere with this pencils, because they don't really just quite do it the way you want them to. Yeah, that's better. And maybe I'm just going to do the tiniest little bit of shadow through her eye there as well. Just to give her eye line a little bit of a shadow, and also to give her brow a little bit more shadow. Wonder what this grand mix was. It's funny, sometimes you put black in with things and really just doesn't quite do it. You sort of need to have, for some reason, blue and brown seems to be what you need. Does that look better? It's hard to tell, you know. Sometimes you just need to stand right back. Try not to overdo things completely. The thing with watercolours is, as they're drying, they dry much lighter than what you thought you were painting in the first place. And might use some of these colours just to give a little bit of backgroundiness to the whole thing. Sometimes that helps to give her a little bit of context. Nothing too much, just a little bit of scribbly, few little scribbly kind of bits of something there. And we'll let that dry. And then I'm going to come and finish with the last little, oops, no I'm not, I'm going to just go down this here again. I thought it was looking a bit too light. Give her some roots. Okay, now I'll leave her alone for another little while. Okay, let's do the last little bit. Let's put some serious eyelashes and eyes on now. And the best bit is always little bits of white. I never quite decide which is the best of these gel pens. One of them's definitely better than the other. Oh, this looks like the good one. And that just gives her a little bit of highlight. Let me just see how this one goes too. Yeah, this one's a bit, gives a little bit less, I think. Or maybe not. There we go. I think that is her.